everybody, I'm Tommy. You're on the boat. How you doing? It's another Saturday night. Lisa Miller, good to see you. Thank you for your service, Lisa Miller. I was as we were waiting to go live, I was reading some of the comments that you had already put up, and I did not know that you worked helping people who suffer from substance use disorder. That to me is heroic, and I love people that work in that field, regardless of whether you're supporting behind the scenes or you're a therapist or whatever it is. If you're working toward that goal, I think that's awesome. Chase the Heat's here. That's my brother. Just Joan, good to see you. Hey, Sammy Sue, Sonny, glad you're here. Whine a little bit more. Welcome to the party. So I am going to attempt that which cannot be done. I am going to explain this RICO concept so that everybody can understand it, because I am seeing on a lot of sites people that have already decided that the game is over and Diddy's going home. And the reason is because they've done nothing with RICO. Nothing. There's been nothing with RICO. So I'm going to bring you up to speed about how this RICO thing works, and I'll give you my always humble opinion. Kristen Melinda, good to see you. Lisa Smith, how are you? Welcome. By the way, Kristen Melinda will be here tomorrow night. We'll be talking about her prison experience. She wasn't an inmate, but sounds funny. Susan, good to see you. Good morning from Western Australia. I love that. All right, so the concept behind RICO, the Racketeer Influence Criminal Organization Act, or Corrupt Organization Act, Criminal Organization, some such shit. The purpose of this was to allow the government, the United States, to go after really mafiosos. Now, they could use it for anybody, but it was designed originally to go after mafiosos. And the reason is they had this thing that they called omerta. And omerta, we don't have a word for it in English, but what it translates to is that you do not speak to anyone in power about anything ever, right? So that would, you don't talk to a librarian if she's asking you about a book. Omerta was a very serious thing, and they took it very seriously until a gentleman by the name of Valachi screwed all that up. But when people were actually holding their mud, when people weren't telling on each other, then the Godfather, the guy that ran the organization, could say, "All right, Tommy, I want you to go out and whack this person and that person." Well, the whole world knows he ordered the hit. But nothing can be done, because if I keep my mouth shut, then there's absolutely no way to ever get to the bad guy. That was the theory. So what they wanted to do was give the prosecution the opportunity to try everybody as if it was one case. And this is a very unusual use of the RICO statute. Normally, this is not the kind of stuff that it's used for. And I'm hearing a lot of people who in chats and pundits and talking heads saying stuff to the effect of, this is simply a domestic violence case. That's all this is. This is a simple case. Hey, Canadian, this is a simple case of domestic violence. And that's not cool, but there's no reason whatsoever to blow this thing up into something it's not. This is a bad guy that was beating on his girlfriend, but this is domestic violence, and in some cases even a little bit of mutual combat, because she admitted that she liked punching him in the face if she has absolutely punched him. Well, I beg to differ, right, on the whole. This is just a domestic violence case. I really happen to disagree with that, and I'm going to paint some pictures of why. But first, let's talk about RICO a little bit, shall we? Racketeering Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act. The prosecution must establish 4 key elements under 18 USC 1962. That would be the RICO statute. These elements apply in both criminal and civil RICO cases, though civil cases involve private parties and typically require proving damages as well. Here's a breakdown of what must be proven. Number 1, you have to prove the existence of an enterprise. This is what the enterprise letter was all about. Think about it as a gang, or as a club, or as a group, or as conspirators, whatever the case may be. But the enterprise, in this case, according to the government, is Bad Boy Entertainment, Sean John Incorporated, all of the things under that umbrella. Now, if this was simply a domestic violence case, where it starts getting really fuzzy is you're flying people all over the world and paying them for sex. And it does seem like almost everything in this guy's existence is designed to have this enterprise make sure that he's got a woman to abuse once a week, and preferably to film it. Now, this is a guy that can't admit that he's gay. It would be a whole lot easier if maybe he just hired those two guys and let them do that to him. But that's simply not how it's going down. The defendant must have been associated with an enterprise, which is defined broadly. It can be a legal entity, like a corporation, partnership, union, like everything that Diddy had incorporated, right? Or an association, in fact, a group of individuals or entities associated for a common purpose, like me getting together with a couple of guys and planning a job, right? That would be the same type of thing. The enterprise must have continuity, structure, and a shared purpose. Now, everybody involved doesn't have to realize that this guy is using his business just simply to do illegal stuff. They don't have to be complicit in that. They just have to be complicit in knowing that what they were doing on such and such a day was illegal. Right? They knew they were carrying out orders for their boss, breaking the law, right? If you're going out to get Tucci, which is the stuff they call pink cocaine now. If you're going out and getting pink cocaine for your boss, I don't think you're sitting there going, I wonder if OSHA would be cool with this, right? All of those employees knew what was going on. How about bodyguards? If you're watching this guy beat on his girl, if you're watching him drug women, or any of the things that we hear coming up time and time again, you understand they don't have to be going, okay, how are we going to find more women to, so that I can sexually assault them? They don't have to be in on it in that sense of the word. But the people who are cleaning up after a freak off, and they're cleaning up, blood, semen, like we've heard horror stories. All of these bodily fluids and stuff, and there's cocaine everywhere. They know when they walk into there, they're cleaning up something that's an illegal crime scene. Right? End the story. What they're cleaning up is illegal. The fact that they're going in there to clean it up is illegal. Okay. So engaging in a pattern of racketeering activity. Now, this, people, is where we're going to separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, on this entire case. A pattern requires at least 2 acts of racketeering activity within 10 years of each other. The acts must be related and demonstrate a threat of continued criminal activity. Continuity and relationship, right? It's got to show both. Racketeering acts include a wide variety of federal and state crimes. Well, I'll list off a couple of them. Bribery. I'll give you $100,000 in a paper bag if you give me that tape of me beating the crap out of my girlfriend. Would you sell it to me for $100K? That's a bribe, people. That's a bribe to cover up a felony. And trust me when I tell you that that's a predicate act that will be just fine in the eyes of the jury and in the eyes of the federal government. Capiche? That is an element of RICO. Extortion, mail or wire fraud, drug trafficking, money laundering, murder, kidnapping, arson, right? Violence of almost any kind. But this arson, that's a big deal, right? Because there's testimony that's going to come in, and allegedly by more than one person, we're going to hear testimony about Kid Cudi's car getting blown up, right? By the way, Rolls-Royce Corniche, terrible car to blow up, right? They're lovely. There was no reason to do that. Car didn't do anything wrong. But that arson is another one of these predicate crimes. You know what another one would be? Possession of firearms that have obliterated serial numbers, right? Those are felonies. Having large capacity magazines that you are not supposed to possess and having one of those either in there or laying next to firearms, guns that have obliterated serial numbers. All of these things are demonstrating a pattern, right? By the way, the domestic violence, yeah, that's good too. You understand that this is a person, if you believe her testimony, she was doing the things that she was doing because she feared what would happen if she didn't. Now, I don't know why that would be hard for 12 jurors to believe. They've already seen pictures of her with boot marks all over her body. They also saw a picture of her standing up at a freak off. I did not see the picture. I assume none of you were there either. But I heard it was heartbreaking. A friend of mine that was that is hip to this said that when you start to look at the room, right? it looks like a trap house. And if you don't know what that is, it looks like a dive that people are slinging dope out of. You know, they were going to these upscale 5-star resorts, right? With Michelin restaurants downstairs and all of that crap. But they're upstairs acting like a couple of stone cold junkies. And they're doing all kinds of dope. Now in court, the defense has intimated that perhaps Diddy got a bad batch of dope the day that he started beating on Cassie Ventura in the hallway. I mean, that is so disingenuous. It's almost laughable, right? This is not something that's new to him, and everybody kind of knows that. But we're supposed to believe that he took a little MDMA, a drug which notoriously makes people want to hug one another, right? Methyl dioxymethamphetamine, MDMA, Molly, X, right? Called a lot of names. And often you hear it called the names of cartoon characters because nowadays they're pumping them out and they look a lot like Flintstones vitamins. You know, you might have a Bart Simpson or you might have a whatever, right? But they wanted to say that he ate some ecstasy and this made him angry enough to beat the crap out of his girlfriend on film. Now, I'm not buying that. You're not buying that. I promise you the jury isn't either, right? But they also talk about he also may have been in withdrawal. If you have ever been in withdrawal, right, and you think you might be able to put the amount of effort that man put into chasing her down the hall, man, when I was dope sick, walking down that hall would have been a very difficult thing to do, especially without defecating. You know, it's one of those, it's very, very difficult to keep your stomach intact. When you get dope sick, your stomach turns to liquid, you vomit a lot. He wasn't dope sick in that video. That was a man who was in complete control of his faculties. Yeah, he was in complete control of his faculties. He was able to beat the crap out of her with with a towel and didn't lose the towel. Molly erodes your discretionary line, and a bad trip will make you hella violent. Chris, with all due respect, you're absolutely so off base. It's incredible. Not trying to be disrespectful to you in any way. I'm really not. But people don't have bad trips on methyl-based drugs. This is not a dissociative drug in the sense of LSD or one of the heavy kind of trip drugs, right? Bad trips on ecstasy. And I lived in Texas when that crap was still legal. And bad trips used to be people at the bar rubbing their nipples, and acting foolish until the cops came and sort of took him out of there. But as far as like freaking out and doing bad trips kind of thing, it's just not that substance, man. It just isn't. Now, maybe the garbage that they're pumping out today, isn't made of the same chemical makeup as it used to be. But this was a substance that it was touted to save marriages. Right? When we were in Texas, they were handing them out, stapled to a brochure saying, "Are you having a tough time with your marriage? Please try this." Well, no, I'll give you that, Chris. I'll give you that. Right? Absolutely. What they're putting in pills today, if you're buying ecstasy today, there's a really decent chance that you're probably going to get an opiate, right? A really strong bathtub opiate because they're putting it in everything. They're putting it in everything because fentanyl has a very strong euphoric kind of feel. And if you only put in a little bit, but they're putting it in everything. And so there was the chemicals that used to make ecstasy, and one in particular, I know I'll butcher the name, monomethylamine. They got rid of most of the ingredients, right? The original recipes for that stuff called for right? Propanol, P2P was the original recipe. That went away. Because the government starts to get rid of the precursors, all the ingredients you need to start making the crap. And that's why the bikers came up with the red, white, and blue, where they cranked out the meth. And anyway, I digress. I have a feeling that we're going to hear a lot more about Sean Diddy Combs' drug use. The defense is going to try to paint this guy as way too wasted to be able to do any of the kind of things that they're talking about. He had such a bad drug problem. There's no way he could have been orchestrating all of this and trying to get the freak offs put together and making sure the drugs were there and all that. Didn't have a problem growing his business to $770 million. But he can't put together a date. It's not going to be a narrative that's going to fly. It simply will not. So, the connection between racketeering activity and the enterprise. The racketeering acts must be connected to or conducted through the enterprise. Now you understand, right, this concept? So he's blowing up Kid Cudi's car. Why is he blowing up Kid Cudi's car? And don't say jealousy, because that's the wrong answer. He's blowing up Kid Cudi's car to scare the crap out of Cassie Ventura. And it worked, right? She goes and wanders off and starts talking to another dude, and her boyfriend blows up that guy's car. The acts that he was doing, the predicate acts that he was doing, including the domestic violence, all of them were designed to turn this girl out, to turn this girl into a very compliant sex worker. Right? Nobody, as they're graduating from high school, puts down on their bucket list, boy, I would like to have, 3 or 4 grown men urinate in my mouth for the entertainment of my significant other. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that wasn't on her bingo card. And they're going to do everything they can to tell us that this was just consensual. You may not like the kind of stuff that they're doing, but these are consensual acts. No, they're not. What they are, they're racketeering activity that is in furtherance of the enterprise. The bribery. Why did Sean Combs hand allegedly, why did he hand a paper sack full of money to the tune of $100,000? Because he knew that the videotape in that hallway showed him beating the hell out of Cassie. In fact, they've already said that he went up to the guy that was working security, and he said, "This can ruin me, right? I don't want to lose anything, and I will lose everything." Is this a guy that's so drugged out he doesn't know what's going on? He knows that tape's worth $100K. He knows if that tape gets out, his days of doing what he's doing are over. Shows all kinds of culpability. It shows that what he knew, what he was doing was really majorly effed up. Right? Now, Cassie also talked about him threatening her to release the freak off tapes. All of these elements, folks, they're not just a bad relationship. This goes to elements, right, of the RICO case. When the prosecution's doing a masterful job, in my opinion, through a lot of this trial. And as they have Cassie on the stand, and she's just offhand saying things like, Christina Crom was there, and Uncle Paulie, or whatever the guy's name was. She's spitting out names of people like this, right? And what it's saying is there wasn't a freak off, that these people weren't involved. And she knows them so well. These are the people that set the stuff, and they call ahead and they sprinkle the roses or whatever. But in everything that's going on, the security guard, right? Cassie gets beat up so badly that Diddy says, "Get her out of here. No one can see her." And he sends one of his bodyguards to keep her inside until the bruises heal. I don't know about the prosecution. If I was trying this case, I would say that was kidnapping. I mean, honestly. But regardless of what it isn't a relationship and a little domestic violence. It's a whole lot different than that, right? And by the way, we may not think it's a really big deal. I see this all the time now in chats. Who cares if he wants to fly some, long, well-endowed couple of guys, right? Sex workers. If he wants to fly a couple of those guys in and he wants to watch them abuse his girlfriend sexually, and everybody's cool with it, what's the big deal? Okay, if that's the case, then legalize prostitution, right? Call your legislatures and get prostitution legalized. But currently, while it is illegal, then what he is doing is exactly what he's charged with, right? He's doing exactly what he's charged with. He is flying people all over the country and paying them for sex. And we've already heard from one of them that said she didn't want to do the freak off, or no. Let me rephrase that. That's what she said. She didn't want to do the freak off. He doesn't know what the argument was about, but it was right before the freak off started, and he could hear Sean Combs beating up Cassie Ventura. these freak offs, no matter what they are, no matter what the text messages say, I assure you that this is a person who was suffering from Stockholm syndrome, right? Or a variation thereof. This is somebody that becomes so dependent on the person that's beating her. Her homes are paid for by him. Her cars, her transportation, all paid for by him. Everything. Her career, he said you can do it, or he says you can't do it. Everything in her life. She lives because he says, okay, you can do that. And what is her response to ass kickings? Literally within a day of her getting the crap kicked out of her, she's sending text messages saying, I just hope that I can be everything that you want me to be. That is battered spouse syndrome. That is somebody out there that takes the butt kicking and thinks, I can do better next time. And I'll make sure that I don't do this, this, and this, and then he won't beat me. This isn't domestic violence. It would be if they were sitting around the house watching The Simpsons while he was doing all this stuff. But forcing her to fly all over the country and perform in live porn sessions for the entertainment of her boyfriend, right? And she ends up injured in a lot of these. We saw a text message. Now they can say, she was super into this. But she said she didn't think she could do a freak off because she didn't want to go to the premiere bruised. Put a deuce in the chat, right? If you find it really messed up, that intercourse would automatically mean that there were going to be a lot of bruises. That's just downright awful. Why, Mr. Jeffrey Canali, my left elbow was making this horrific clicking sound the other day. And I said, that lowlife Canali. I love you, my brother. Good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. This is the RICO statute. There's a lot of people that are crying. The prosecution's done nothing to show people, for the love of God, right? We were in the first week of the trial, and what they wanted to do was let the jury see that videotape, right? They wanted the jury to see a videotape right from jump, right out the gate. They wanted the 12 members of that jury to see Cassie get beat by Sean Combs, because everything you hear from this point on, your head is going to go right back to that beating. If somebody says, yeah, I was afraid of him, the head's going to go right back to that beating. If somebody says, when he came to the apartment, he was really pissed. Yeah, right back to that beating. And now you start to realize why people might stick around out of fear. You understand? But this is the prosecution, in my opinion, is winning this case, right? But it's the trouble here is that unlike any other case that most lawyers try, if I'm trying somebody for murder, I don't have to go in there and spend a great deal of time explaining murder, right? Doesn't happen. The guy was breathing and now he's not breathing anymore, right? We understand this is a concept. The Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organizations Act, right? That is a little bit more difficult to explain, especially vis-a-vis human trafficking, right? And the Mann Act. This cocktail of three cases is about as strange as you're going to get. Now, should they have charged him with other stuff? That's not our gig, right? Neither here nor there. But let me tell you something. It's the first week, and everybody's panicking already. They're not putting anybody. Do you know who's one of the next witnesses coming up? Huh? The woman who was his right-hand woman before Christina Karam, right? Before KK, there was what is her name? It's one of the zodiac symbols. It's one of the 12 zodiacs. If anyone knows that name, help me out. Because I can't think of it right now. Capricorn? Is it Capricorn? Now it's escaping me. However, they are going to be putting on the stand, right? Coming up in the second week, they're going to put on the stand employees. Huh? Remember I said, we'll be seeing employees of his. Cassie isn't the one that's going to nail the coffin shut. Everybody assumes this is the witness that's going to absolutely no. She is the witness that's going to show you who Sean Combs is. The rest of them will tell you. But Cassie was in a very unique position to be able to show you who Sean Combs was as he's beating the crap out of her. And trust me, you're going to see that tape again, right? They're not going to go over the top because they don't want it to become, right? It's like a horror movie. You see The Shining 6 times. It's just not as scary when the little girls ride down on the big wheels. But boy, the first time you saw that, right? Hold on one sec. Capricorn. Yeah, I think it is Capricorn. Thank you, Lisa. But I find it odd, right? It's not KK. Well, maybe KK decided she was going to omerta up. Maybe she decided that she wasn't going to say anything. Right? Maybe she checked into rehab. That's usually what people do if they want to hide. Check into a 6-month rehab or whatever. So maybe they went up the chain and they went to Capricorn and said, you've been gone a while. How would you like to go to prison for some of the things that were alleged? Or you could come in and help us. But these are prosecution witnesses. If I were Sean Combs, I would be really concerned that they were calling employees of mine. These are going to be the people that kill him, right? Figuratively speaking, in the case, because for Cassie to go in there and say, he hurt me. I mean, we can look at that stuff. It's terrible. It's violent, right? And we hear the horror stories of her, people urinating on her. And, we have visions of R. Kelly and it's just disturbing. But if you got an employee that said, yeah, we knew what was happening in those freak-offs. Yeah, no, we knew those were drug-fueled things. We had to go in and clean up after them. We knew exactly what was going on. Everybody did. Yee. Those are how you nail a coffin shut in a case. It isn't going to be pulling at the heartstrings. I promise you. It's going to be cold, hard facts. I was there when he did this. He ordered me to do this, right? That's how you win a case. But everybody's already panicking, right? Not you guys. This is on other platforms. But the people on the lifeboat, I've been saying for a really long time how this thing was going to go down. I think you may remember it. And I said there are going to be a lot of employees who are going to have to make a decision between being a witness, right? Or being a defendant. And I think that this week coming up is going to be very interesting for that reason. It's going to be fun to see some of these employees on the stand because they're the people that are going to have the dirt that can really put him away. The defense is going to be filing motions for a mistrial. You're going to hear a lot of yelling and screaming. And their issue is going to be that if you are fighting for your life, you should be able to cross-examine the witness for 7 weeks, if that's what you want to do. You should be able to keep a person on the witness stand as long as you want if it's a murder case. Now, if you've watched these trials or if you're a law nerd of any kind, it's rare that the prosecution will put on one of their witnesses and have it be considerably longer on the defense, especially if it happens to be something like this, where you're talking about rape or you're talking about something ugly. More often than not, the prosecution is going to go in there and the defense is going to go in there and try to just poke a couple of holes in it, right? As quickly as possible. You don't want to keep a victim on the stand. It's not a good look, especially when she's 8 months pregnant. But the trouble is Sean Combs is running that defense. True story. So they're going to ask for mistrial because Sean Combs is demanding that he has time to ask all the rest of the questions he wanted to ask of Cassie. Keep in mind, Subramanian, right? Rune Subramanian, the honorable judge, he had said to them, here's your time frame, right? After that, I'm letting this girl go. I'm not going to have her give birth on the stand. There's a lot of people out there that are saying the defense really wants a mistrial. They're hoping that Cassie would give birth. Right? For real, that there'd be a mistrial because she couldn't testify or whatever. Now what they're saying is, okay, well, she's going off to give birth to her child, but we're going to be here at least 8 to 10 weeks. So we want her back on the stand. Sorry, what? Really? Going out of your way to look more like an asshat, then, that's difficult to do. I mean, if I said to you, Sean Combs is actually going to do stuff to make himself look even dumber or more violent, you'd have gone, yeah, I don't know about that. But that's exactly what he's doing. This looks heartless. He just wants to torture her, says Lady Sparkle. And I think you're probably right. Hey, B. I'm glad to have you here, B lady. Hey, Jordan. Yeah, always hit that like button, people. And you guys have been doing more of that lately. I really appreciate it. And it is nice, folks, to come here and weigh in on this stuff, you know. It's going to be nicer when this week coming up, my brother and I fly to the city so nice they named it twice, so that we can go out there and actually get a look at our boy. Yeah, I'll tell you something. Tommy, I did a lot of reading today, and Jeffrey Epstein was not charged with RICO, only sex trafficking. Give me a break. That was an organization, if I ever saw one. Yeah, that was absolutely an organization. But the trouble is, right, if they stuck around long enough, we were going to find out who ran that organization. And there's a lot of people out there. Hey, guess what? Now we're in the Tommy doesn't give a shit file, right? The Mossad, right? Now that I get demonetized and I don't care anymore, the Mossad, right? There's a lot of people that believe that Israeli, their version of the Central Intelligence Agency is called the Mossad. And there's a lot of people that believe that this was just an operation to get an awful lot of dirt on, big name politicians and big name people in industry, right? Because if you got pictures of somebody with an underage person, you own them. They will vote whatever way you tell them to. They will do anything you want, right? I can't answer why it was RICO free, but I will tell you this. Make no mistake, that entire thing was so crooked. If you're not, I mean, if you've been on the boat for any length of time, you've heard me talk about his suicide. There's no way in hell. Now, could he have killed himself? Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's possible. But everything they told us about how he did it is a lie. Everything. They said that Jeffrey Epstein was on suicide watch. Then they changed that to say he was on close observation. There's a big deal between those two. In suicide watch, you would not have bunk beds because you wouldn't have a cellmate. It would just be you. You wouldn't have clothing. You'd be wearing a dress. Looks like an oven mitt, right? Like something Barney Rubble would rock. It's a completely different setup. Your cell is set apart from everybody else, and your cell door is all glass. And a guy sits like this and stares at you in 4-hour shifts. He gets up, another guy sits down, and that's every 4 hours they bring somebody new in. You will never be sitting there where someone isn't staring at you. That's it. The person staring at you will be an inmate through a program that they call My Brother's Keeper. So that didn't happen. And I think once they realized that people were going to go, I don't think he was on suicide watch. They went to this close supervision bull crap, right? And they said that the reason that the officers didn't check on him is they were both sleeping. If you've ever been in the SHU, the segregated housing unit, right? Especially if there happens to be some boys from DC there, but there'll be 3 tiers, right? 2 stories high. So 6 hallways, right? That come into one central rotunda. It's a speaker box. And if you're a cop sitting in the middle of that speaker box, you're not falling asleep. But more importantly, again, suspension of disbelief. Let's say they both fell asleep. The camera right in front of the observation cell, right in front of Jeffrey Epstein's cell was not working. How about the camera to the left of it or the camera to the right of it? Right? Because the theory is that somebody would have had to enter the cell other than Jeffrey Epstein to help Epstein him, right? So in order for that to happen, someone had to enter the building, get in an elevator, take that elevator up, right? They're going to be going through doors that have to be key carded, or you hit a button and central control, right, calls down and says, and beeps you and the door opens. In any case, it leaves a record. Be easy as hell to just go in there and see exactly who was moving around and going where. That fast. Why aren't they doing it? Well, they shut the place down, didn't they? Didn't you think that was weird? I mean, within Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell, and we're closing this puppy down. This place has got to go. That's it. We're not going to have this anymore. And I've not, full disclosure, I've never done time at MDC Brooklyn, and I've never done time at the Men's Detention Center in Manhattan, which is where Jeffrey Epstein was. Never done time at either of them. But my understanding is that both of them were pretty much in the same state of repair. So all you did was shut down one and send everybody now to one instead of dividing it up among two. Not sure that was a great idea, but what the hell do I know? What I will tell you is they could easily prove to the public by showing the videotape on either side. Show us the cell. If he's in cell 3, show us cell 2 where that camera is. Give us an 8 hours of that camera at high speed, because somebody had to answer that cell. If nobody entered that cell, then he killed himself. And I promise you, it'd be really easy to prove, but they didn't. I'll tell you something else, B-Lady. While you're doing some research the 2 guards. They pled guilty, right? They're already off paper. They pled guilty, got their sentence, got community service, and the whole thing was wrapped up in about 45 minutes. And now they're gone. And I mean gone. Right? They're not working there anymore. They are gone. Hold on one second. Does anyone know what was done to those females on that crazy island? Sadly, a whole lot of people know what happened to those girls on that island. A lot of people know, right? They're called Johns, customers, scumbags, pedophiles. But the people that were flying down there to molest those girls, and theoretically boys too, from, right? This was, whatever you're into, because they got a blackmail and then, an operation of some kind. People, it doesn't take a lot to say, when you walked into the living room of Jeffrey Epstein's New York brownstone, that the one that the guy from the guy that owned Victoria's Secret gave him a $5 million house in New York, gave him a bunch of other crap too. But in his living room was a massive painting that he had commissioned. And the painting was of Bill Clinton in a dress, right? A blue dress, Bill Clinton. And make no mistake, people. I mean, what does that say to you? Les Wexner, thank you, Chris and Melinda. What does that say to you? He's got a painting of the, former president, at one time, the president of the United States of America, wearing a dress in your living room. You're telling everybody that comes in there, right? He subconsciously or out in the open or whatever, but that man is my bitch. I got enough dirt on that dude. I own him. Right? It's a really foul term, right? But it's a term that's, I guarantee you, he said, right? You wouldn't have had that painting made if you didn't feel that Clinton had become your bitch. You had enough blackmail on him to make him do whatever you want. They're also called Prince Andrew, allegedly. Yes, that's true. Can you ask a question about the Diddy trial? Absolutely, you can. Let's see if you already asked it. Let's see here. Diddy trial. Boom. Let's see what we got. Diddy trial. Did 50 Cent turn up in court? That's a great question. I have not heard anybody talk about Curtis being there, which would lead me to believe he has not been, because that's going to be news, right? When 50 shows up in court, that's going to be news. He has been trolling. He's been trolling Diddy for as long as anybody has, right? He's been at it since Jaguar, as long as Jaguar Wright has. Jaguar did show up in New York. I don't think she went into the court or the overflow, but she was there and did some interviews. So I am hoping to get in. I am hoping to be able to get into the building, into the court. We'll see how that goes. If not, I'll make a lot of noise from out front, and I'll let you guys. I'll take you with us, so to speak. Yeah, anytime you want to ask a question, if you put a bunch of cues in front of it, I usually try to grab it, and it doesn't always have to be with what we talk about. The reason that my cat is named Squirrel is because when I first started this channel, I was kind of known for not being able to stay on topic. I know what you're thinking. No, Tommy, you? No, for real. Sometimes I struggle with that. I think it's because the brain just doesn't work the way that it used to. Hey, Nancy Wagner, good to have you here. So, the RICO part of this is this is what is going to put him in prison for the rest of his life if he's convicted of it. And there's a lot of people who are thoroughly convinced there's no chance they're going to be able to do this because they're not showing any kind of conspiracy of any kind. We're a week into this, peeps. A week. We are going to hear from people that he directed to do A, B, and C. He ordered to do A, B, and C. They did it. It's an enterprise, right? And they're going to prove the elements. So maybe Diddy didn't blow up the car. Do we know he did it? Chances are he didn't. He probably sent someone to do it, right? Just like Cassie had said in her lawsuit, she once saw guys running in and Diddy was handing one gun to him after another, like a scene out of Commando, right? Like a scene out of Rambo. All of these guys, SWAT style, grabbing guns to go, They were for all intent and purpose, they were living like gangbangers, weren't they? I mean, for real. They were living the life. They weren't just rapping about it. Again, Diddy trial. Did they play a voice recording message by Prince? I have not heard that they played anything from Prince yet. And I probably would have heard because I've been reading transcripts each day. Hold on one second. Supposedly recorded just before his death, worrying about things going on in the industry. Wow. I have not heard of that, but that was a fake thumbnail, says Jordan. Boy, there's a lot of them, aren't there, folks? Huh? Are there a lot of fake thumbnails? Holy crap. This morning I was looking at Diddy collapses in court. Diddy's son, right? Apparently there was a thumbnail that said that Diddy's son stood up in court and yelled at him, "You destroyed our family." That was the that was the thumbnail. And you know, the sad thing is not that they're putting it up. The sad thing is they're getting paid. This stuff generates money. But it certainly proves my point. I've been saying for a really long time. Boy, you don't need to have any proof to say whatever the hell you want on YouTube. On the bright side, all of it has brought me a newfound freedom, and I do prefer talking about the guy wearing a suicide smock, and I do prefer being able to say sexual assault as opposed to smexual or any of the other kind of stupidity that I got to do to try to get around the algorithm or the digital censors. People, do you realize that for the first year of the boat, all I talked about was sobriety, right? I mean, I talked about drugs and trying to help people get sober. For the first year, that was pretty much it. And they're dinging me for saying cocaine. They're dinging me for saying heroin. They're dinging me for saying the name of any drug. And I'm like, my argument was, I was putting down at the bottom, hey, this is an educational channel. Like, I'm not saying, hey, let's do a bump. It was always, trying to help people get off of the stuff. And then one day out of the blue, man, actually, I was looking at my stuff and they started to change from yellow to green. And I was like, holy crap, as fast as I could scroll down. It was like they figured out all at once that we weren't trying to get people wasted. And then I got a lot of them back. When you see those fake stories, it might be worth reporting them. I'm tracking a couple that were absolute horse crap, right? I mean, just wholesale made up. There's not even a shred of truth that they expounded upon or anything like that. And I'm just tracking how long it takes for it to be taken down, because at this point it's got 3.1 million views. I don't know why there'd be any end in sight. You know what I mean? If that's yours, you certainly don't want to take it down. Greg says there's a lot of fake stuff being said about Diddy getting off. He is done and he will get life. I'll tell you another one. Do you know the most, this is no stuff, no joke whatsoever. The most Googled phrase going right now is, can Trump pardon Diddy? Because people out there are talking about how this is a really strong possibility, folks. Please take my word on this. Politicians will absolutely pardon people at the end of their office. Those politicians that care a lot about their reputation don't do it as much, and they try to do it on the DL. And you don't want to pardon somebody who has victims. You can pardon somebody that's selling a bunch of coke, and I'm not saying that selling coke doesn't have victims, right? But you don't know their names. Yeah, we didn't hear on the stand about them getting pissed on, right? There's a real big difference between the kind of things that they commute sentences for and this. This is foul. This is disgusting. And it's unrepentant, right? This is a guy that beats women and he's into it. It's a bit frightening. He wouldn't do that. Yeah, whether you like him or not, he is a political animal, and he is a guy that, and I'm not saying that in a positive way. What I mean is he's reading the paper to see what's being said about him on a daily basis. That's something that he is very, very concerned with. And I don't think he would open himself up to the amount of hate, right? Because I would imagine if you took a poll in this country that 7 to 8 out of 10 Americans would say this guy should spend the rest of his life in prison. Tell you what, if you think he should, if you think that this guy should walk free, put a 3 in the chat. If you think Diddy should spend the rest of his life in prison, give me a 2. A 2. Now, let's remember, people, as far as predicate acts, right? As far as other bad acts that they can demonstrate within 10 years, we got Kid Cudi's car getting blown up. We got him paying somebody $100,000 to keep their mouth shut, right? There's all kinds, all of the DV, all the domestic violence, that's assault, right? And trust and believe that he was using all of this stuff as a way to entice. It's the carrot and the stick. And when the prosecution wraps this case up, they're going to come back and they're going to say, we showed you what happens when she says no, right? We were blessed to have frozen in time what happens if she said, no, I'm not doing this, right? That's what had just happened. She walked out of the room and said, I'm not doing a freak off today. For whatever reason, he hit her in there and she was ready to leave. When he started beating her in the hall, what did she do? You guys, I assume, have watched this more than once, right? Has this occurred to anybody? What did Cassie do when Diddy is kicking her, right, as out as he can and wailing on her? What does she do? She literally drops and doesn't move an inch, right? She went into the playing dead, kind of a pose. That's exactly right. Sonny, that is exactly right. She assumed the position, one that she is very familiar with. She was going to let him continue to beat on her until it was over. Because that's what she does, right? When he gets pissed and he starts swinging at you, if you go to fight him back, she told us what happened when she tried to defend herself, right? So she knew if she laid there, he might kick her 1 or 2 more times, right? He might grab her by the hair, but if she didn't fight back, it would be over faster. People, are you getting this? People don't lay still when you kick them unless they're unconscious. She was not unconscious, but she went right into just do what you're going to do and get it over with. I want to get out of here. And he did it without losing his towel. How many times did you have to get good at kicking a woman or punching a woman so that you could literally do it with a towel on and not lose it? It's pretty damn disgusting. Here's the thing. The treatment of Cassie, she was obviously never treated by Diddy like she was his wife or his girlfriend, right? She was treated like she was just one of the hoes in a stable of a pimp. I mean, that's how he treated her, right? He beat on her to keep her in line. He told her what she could wear. He told her what she could do. He went to a party, great Gene Deal story. He went to a party and he saw a white girl right, at the party that had shaved half of her head. Long blonde hair. Apparently she was something to look at. But one entire side of her head was shaved. And when he got home, he said, go shave half your head. To the women in the audience, right? I mean, a friend of mine says, you want to shave your head? That wouldn't be such a big deal for me, even if I had hair, right? I mean, who cares? You're a dude. But for a woman to shave half of her head, that's some control, right? And that's what he was going for, control. You heard some of the things that she said. Fix your face. Fix your face. You better be smiling at all times. Fix your face. What a lovely expression, right? She could be beat on for the wrong facial expression. This man put her in line. This man knew exactly what to do so that she was completely under his control, right? And the people who go, yeah, this is a money grab. Are you shitting me? She didn't get a good deal then. I'm sorry. $20 million. People going, $20 million. $2 million a year for 10 years to have the crap kicked out of you, be humiliated, have people urinate on you or whatever else. We don't know half of the stuff. This is highlight reels that they're talking about. We got no idea the abuse that she was put through. 10 years, this was a weekly occurrence. Some days they would literally be doing the nasty for 3 days running. 72 hours of sex? That's just abuse. It's abuse. The dudes couldn't hang that long. He'd bring in, the next team. God help us. And of course, she always had a urinary tract infection, but had to continue to do it. Right? Had to continue to do it. In fact, she got raped while in a K-hole. While, in one of the most uncomfortable positions you'll ever be in as far as drugs go. K-hole is not fun. It's a terrible feeling. And she said while in that, she was still forced to continue. The show must go on kind of thing. And he's a control freak, right? Her fingernails had to be painted white. That is the second most Googled thing, apparently, right now. That's the other thing that everybody is looking up. I guess they want to see if there's other people out there doing this or whatever. We saw Young Miami, right? Wasn't it Young Miami? She had the white fingernails. Diddy is a guy that likes what he likes, right? He likes what he likes, and he's going to get it. He's damaged goods. But over a long enough period of time, man, all of the people around him, there was a story that was told, probably a year ago now. And I believe the story was told by Gene Deal. If it wasn't Gene Deal, it might have been one of the other bodyguards. But they said that they were at a dinner and Diddy hit Cassie at this dinner. And Jimmy Iovine was there. There was a bunch of people there, right? Allegedly, Usher. There was a lot of people there. And they watched him close his fist and punch her. And then I guess the second one was in the stomach, right? And he doubled over. She doubled over so bad that, couldn't stand up kind of thing. How often do you have to kick the crap out of your girlfriend until people at dinner don't even intervene or say anything? Think about that. Think about what would happen if you were at dinner, right? And you just decided to haul off and smack the woman you were with. The people that you're eating with, I assume are going to call the cops, right? If I'm at the table, I promise you we're going to have words. But the conversations just continued. People just continued to talk. Drinks continued to flow. Why? Because they're all used to this. You see, keeping your woman in line, well, that's just part of what it means to be a man, right? I would say that this is a damaged dude. And unfortunately, Dawn Richards, I think, is going to be back on Monday morning. So they're not done with Dawn Richards. What they wanted to do, in my opinion, was they did not want to send the jury home and having Cassie's testimony be the last thing that they saw. They wanted to bring in somebody else and paint an image in their head to send them home with to stew on for a couple of days. I think the defense is going to have a very, very difficult time with this trial. And the reason that the defense is going to have a difficult time with this trial is they're not allowed to try this case the way they want. If you read the transcripts, you will hear lines of questioning that go nowhere. It has come out that the people out front with the free Diddy shirts, they're getting paid $20 an hour to do this. He's hiring all kinds of troll farms and people to come in and get in chats and say things, right? He is trying to sway the court of public opinion, which just shows you how clueless he is. The court of public opinion isn't going to save him. Right? Those 12 jurors, that's the only hope he's got, are those 12 jurors. I personally think they should have been sequestered. We already know that he has paid off a juror in the past. Allegedly. He and Johnny Cochran paid off an attorney. Now, I do not want to badmouth a dead man. I was a fan of Johnny when he was alive. But that is the story that Sean Combs apparently tells people. That would have been, of course, the Shine Barrow case. Hey, sexy Nessa. Nessa. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Jane, glad you're here. I did read the Diddy emergency motion. Here, you know what? These kind of things happen the entire time that trials are going on, especially if you've got a half a dozen lawyers that you're paying more than $1 million each. Diddy needs to get out. He'd like to get a mistrial where he would have an opportunity to get out on bail. If they can get this first trial scrapped and get it declared a mistrial, they're going to then immediately go in and say, look, this is cruel and unusual punishment, Eighth Amendment stuff. We're going to keep him in here again now for what, another year? I think Diddy is trying to do anything that he can possibly do to get his ass out of there so that he can run, so that he can try to make a getaway, because there is no shot of him beating this. There isn't. And I know people are going to argue that, and they're going to go, there's no evidence that he did. The people that are saying there's no evidence, right, that this was sex trafficking, they have really, really twisted sex lives. For real. Is this how you treat your wife? Intimidate her to the point where she's so afraid of you that when you say, it's going to turn me on to watch these guys piss in your mouth, that she says, okay. And you're not going to convince me that turned them on. What turned him on was the power that he has, that he can get somebody to degrade themselves like that for his entertainment, that she wants so badly to be CC. That's his nickname for her, was CC, as in Cassie Combs. And that's what she wanted, right? That's exactly what she wanted. She wanted so badly to be Mrs. Puff Daddy that she would do anything, right? Until she wouldn't. Now, if you're saying yes, right? If you're saying yes, then I go, hey, take your skirt off. I'd like to have sex with you, right? If you decide to take your skirt off, that's not consent, right? I'm pointing a gun at you. It's a very extreme example, right? But there are a lot of things that take away a person's right to consent. Let me give you examples. If you know saying no to the person that you are about to have sex with, if you say, I'm not doing this, you're going to lose your house, you're going to lose your job, and you're going to get beat up, then you don't have the ability to consent. You don't. Consent is saying yes to something because you want to say yes to it. Did you catch that? Not for any other reason. If there's undue pressure, if there's violence, if there's coercion, if there's threats of violence, if there's any of that stuff, well, then simply put, she's not consenting. And if she's not consenting, then what's going on? Swingers, you don't pay swingers, right? Swingers don't get paid. They do it for the love of wanting to try someone else's husband or someone else's wife, or they like to be watched while they do it, or whatever their get down is, right? But that's not what this was. These people were being paid a lot of money, and they were all signing non-disclosures before they went in there, right? Not for the sex, right? Probably for the beatdowns and all the drugs. The saddest part of this entire story, yeah, his bodyguards would bring her back if she ran. It hurts me that she did all of that too. It does. And she was absolutely gorgeous, especially when she was about 19 or 20, right? When she was just about the age she was meeting Diddy. She didn't have the I'm a rock star look yet. She didn't have, and rock stars to me have an edge. There's something hard about them, right? This was before she realized how ugly Hollywood was. If you look at the early pictures of her and the early interviews, she just seemed happy, right? She seemed like she was believing all of the, what do you call it? She was not disillusioned yet with Hollywood and what he was doing. Your last question. I can't find your last question. That's a bummer. Please address my last question, because giving people are saying Cassie was gagging for it is really irrelevant. Well, there was, I got to find your comment. I'm not very good at this. I'll see that won't work. Well, I know that when she was on the stand, she said that that she was literally gagging from this going on, and that would make a lot of sense. I don't imagine that having that done to you would not. That would be a difficult thing not to gag on. That's my humble opinion, right? The concept of it, just knowing what's being done to you, right, would be because it. Is there a loving way to piss on someone? Seriously. Is there a way to do that lovingly? Miss me with that. Cindy G makes a great comment, right? I am very proud of the strength and the bravery that it took to be on the stand, to admit to those things. Brain isn't fully formed until 26. He's older. Yeah, and he was 17 years old. But more importantly, right, as bad as everything that he did to her is, as bad as bringing guys in and watching them sexually abuse your girl, the one that you say you love. But the worst thing that he did to her was he got her strung out, right? He got her strung out on dope. The real dope, right? Pain medication, crap loads of it, perk 30s. They were doing tons and tons and tons of opiates. And she is now, her receptors are never going to be quite the same, right? She admitted on the stand that she takes buprenorphine, which is, of course, the Suboxone strips. I don't judge anybody for how they get sober, but I take that every day. And I probably will for the rest of my life. And I did it to myself. I got nobody to blame. What he did to her, I mean, she was 19 and she meets the king, right? And he can make every single one of her dreams come true. You get it? All of her dreams. Signed you to a 10 record deal. I can make your dreams come true. You just better not say no to me, right? You just better not say no to me. If it wasn't said, it was implied. Will the prosecution bring an expert on to educate the jury on how horny drugs, MDMA and GHB make you feel? I hope that they get a drug expert on there, The reason being, there are so many different substances that we've already heard about. Clonazepam, right? We already heard about clonazepam, and other YouTube channels said that's an erectile dysfunction. I mean, an erectile dysfunction treatment. And of course it's not, right? It's not to help you get an erection. It's a benzodiazepine. It's a strong benzo. And gamma hydroxybutyric acid, it would probably be worth people explaining from the stand how incapacitated a person is after they take that, right? And the hangover that is associated with it very often. And I think that it would be really important as well for them to explain what K-hole is. To just sort of offhand make a statement and, I did a little too much. I was freaking everybody out. I was K-holed. If you don't explain what that is, let me do this. Ketamine is an analog of PCP. Did you know that? The jury should. He was giving her stuff that isn't just party drugs. He was giving her stuff that nobody should just be I've never heard that term, Jane, but I'm not sure I like it. You know what? He was across the street from me doing time. He was at the United States Penitentiary at Terre Haute at the same time I was at the FCI at Terre Haute. They're on the same. They're basically on the same ground. There's one road between us, between the two prisons. Yeah, what a terrible expression, Jane. I've never heard that. I've never heard that. I kind of wish that I still hadn't heard it. Yeah, that's. I think it's. There's another one. DMX had a tune, and it's not my music, people. I've been very open about that. You know what I mean? I like easy listening. I'm not even kidding, man. Give me Elton John's great, little Billy Joel. I like really, really sort of laid back, easy listening stuff. I know everybody hates that. I mean, I love the Stones and all the old classics. But so KO, when you take too much ketamine, you feel like you're at the bottom of a well. It does something to the periphery, right? So I always say, people say it's like looking up from the bottom of a well. I've never been at the bottom of a well. I have taken binoculars a million times and turned them around backwards. And you feel like you're a million miles away from what you're looking at, and you can't, it gets very narrow. Everything around the outside disappears. And that's what happens when you take too much ketamine. You literally, right? It's like when I did it, I was at a hotel room the first time it happened to me. And I fell backwards onto the bed, and I was looking at the ceiling, which looked like it was about 7 miles away. And almost, it felt to me like I was continuing to fall, like I didn't hit the mattress with my back. And it felt like that for about 10 minutes. I am not a huge fan of the whole K-hole thing. Hold on. That probably shouldn't surprise anybody. I would imagine that this is a guy that gets off hurting people. I have been saying for damn near a year now, maybe longer than a year, the pathology of P. Diddy, right? What makes Diddy tick? I don't believe that any of the stuff he does sexually has anything to do with sex, right? Lisa, thank you so much. What a kind thing to say. It really is. It's a very kind thing to say. Yeah, like a keyhole journey to the other side. I hope that they come in, and I hope that they take the time to explain the chemicals. Pink cocaine isn't cocaine, right? And it's going to, there is so much misinformation in the world about drugs, right? There really is. There's so much misinformation about drugs. Gamma hydroxybutyrate, GHB, has been called the date rape drug, right? So much so that people will call GHB a roofie. Roofie, right, was the first letters of a rohypnol, right? Rohypnol, flunitrazepam. It was the strongest benzo you would ever see sold, and it's not sold anymore. With alcohol, if you took even one shot, your mind would completely erase. So yes, people have used it to do bad things. That said, there was a crapload of people for a period of time that were partying on that stuff in clubs. There was a lot of people doing really small amounts of it and going out and partying. And it was a very popular club drug in the early 90s, right? Tons of people did G. Tons of people had sex on G. Tons of people, it wasn't what it has become in the press. It's not saying that it's not dangerous, right? But you could do that to somebody with a Valium, right? If you give somebody enough of anything, you're going to knock them out and they're not going to know what's going on. But G was not always used for that. You better wear a Tootsie Roll. You know what, Alicia? I need to wear a Tootsie Roll shirt there. That is the greatest idea I've ever heard. It's funny? There are some people that are definitely ready for us. I've had some threats already. GHB is now the drug of choice in London. It's cheap and it's easy to make. You're not using any floor stripper to make that, are you? It's cheap and easy to make. Guys are making it in their living rooms and selling it in bottles for 10 quid. There was a period of time in the United States where it was like that. And then they removed one of the ingredients. I'm not joking, you people. It was so simple that it was a particular kind of floor stripper that you bought, right? You buy that floor stripper and you would you would mix it with distilled water. And then you would either add caustic soda or I don't remember what the other side was, right? But you added one ingredient or another until you got the pH to a certain level, and then boom, it was out the door and sold. And it's a terrifying drug just because it is so easy to make. We are going to have a really, really good time. I promise you. We're going to have a good time. We are almost, I've gotten a bunch of emails from people that say, you're not giving us reports. I did. If you guys are catching the shows, I did mention that we have located the house that we're going to be living in. I announced that yesterday. And the first announcement was I am not going to the mountains. I am moving to the ocean. Right. So there's been a few hints. We've been narrowing it down a little bit. And I will tell you this now, we are probably a day and a half away from being fully packed. And then the idea is we would like everything completely packed and ready to go so that we can go to New York, catch the trial for a while. And when we come back, get in it and just go. When's the wedding day? I'm guessing you haven't been here in a really long time. Squirrel and I have been talking pretty seriously about a September wedding, but Squirrel, very indecisive. She changes her mind constantly. You should see her at a door, right? Stands at the thing. You go to open it and instantly, right? She's like, nope, changed my mind. Where am I moving to? I can't tell you. I could tell you, but then everybody would know. It's going to be a bit of a surprise. And to be really honest, one of the reasons that I'm moving is because the entire world knows where I live. And I can tell you some great stories about that, but I probably will do that after I get where I'm going because I'm not trying to give anybody else any ideas. It has been, like I've said a million times, say whatever you want about me. Like, I don't care. But when the hate and the BS begins to actually spill into the real world, and things start to happen in the real world because of what's happening on YouTube, at that point, I need to make some changes with what I do. They're out to get me. Yeah, Jane, I got a couple of people that are absolutely out to get me, and that's not paranoia. That's just a fact. It is what it is. It is what it is. But I'll tell you something, and this is no joke. I went through a pretty dark period, right? But I'm coming out of it. I'm not 100% out of it, but I sure as shit am coming out of it. I'm reducing harm, and I'm not looking for love in the same place that I lost it, nor am I looking for happiness in the same place that I lost it. Right? Those things don't work. You need to be willing and able to move on. It's yeah, Sonny, I disclosed way too much. You live and learn. I made some very serious mistakes in the first 4 years of YouTube. I really did. I made some massive mistakes. And I was going to just stop doing it. I really was. Like, the plan was I was just gonna pull the plug. But I like this too much, man. Like, I really do. And you know what? This is going to sound arrogant as hell, but I think I'm pretty good at it. I'm more comfortable doing this than just about any gig I've ever had. So I intend to stay. Rhinoceros. Anyone else find it interesting that Diddy's sex slave named HRC and BO were part of the freak offs, and 47 drops some old school truth bombs? You know what? I can't even comment on that intelligently. I really can't. But I want to. Hey, DJ Daddy-O, the artist formerly known as DJ Daddy-O. People, yeah, thank you for the super chat. And I will have a better answer for this, but I'm going to research it. Here's the thing. Say what you will. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I'll tell you I don't know what I'm talking about. The other option is horrible. You learn that really early on as a public speaker, right? If you start BSing, someone is going to ask you a question that requires a much better answer, and you're going to go, oh, that's no good. People, I'm going to be back tomorrow night, and it is going to be the first time I've done an interview on the lifeboat, and I don't remember how long. It's been a very long time since I've done a interview here on the boat, and I think this one's going to be an interesting one. So get here at the normal squirrel time, and when you do, bring a bunch of questions for our guest. She worked in a woman's federal institution, and I am very much looking forward to picking her brain. I will be interviewing Kristen Melinda, a former worker at a woman's federal prison. So it ought to be pretty cool. I'm very much looking forward to it. So we will see you guys tomorrow, right? Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody, and never look for happiness in the same place that you lost it. All right. See you guys on the next one. Thank you for all you do. I love you guys. True story.